Hey there, geography fans. Ever heard of Nauru? No? Well, you're in for a treat. This tiny island nation is one of the most unique places on Earth. Nauru is so small that it often gets overlooked. In fact, it's the third smallest country in the world, just after Vatican City and Monaco. We're talking 8 square miles. To put that into perspective, you could walk around the entire island in just a few hours. That's like the size of a medium-sized airport. Imagine an entire country fitting into the space of an airport. Located smack dab in the Pacific Ocean, it's basically what happens when a volcano retires, chills out, and gets swallowed by the sea, except for the very tippy top. This geological formation is known as an atoll, and Nauru is one of the most fascinating examples. Anyway, about 1,000 years ago, some intrepid Polynesian explorers stumbled upon this tiny island. These early settlers were skilled navigators, using the stars and ocean currents to find their way across vast distances. They said, nobody here, more coconuts for us, and decided to call it home. The island was rich in natural resources, providing everything they needed to thrive. Life was good, simple. Fishing, farming, the usual island life. The community was close-knit, and everyone worked together to make the most of their island paradise. Little did they know, things were about to get interesting. Over the centuries, Nauru would face challenges and changes that no one could have predicted. And by interesting, I mean a roller coaster ride of economic booms and busts that would make even the wildest Wall Street trader say, "Whoa, chill out, Nauru." From phosphate mining riches to financial crises, Nauru's story is one of resilience and adaptation. Fast forward a few centuries and it's the late 1800s. Nauru, a tiny speck in the vast Pacific Ocean, is about to undergo a transformation that no one could have predicted. A British mining company, always on the lookout for new ways to develop, stumbles upon Nauru's dirty little secret phosphate. This discovery would change the fate of the island forever. Now before you go thinking bird poop, that's their golden ticket, you're not wrong. The island's surface was covered in guano, the accumulated droppings of seabirds over millennia. See, Nauru was basically a giant bird toilet for centuries. This might sound unappealing, but in the world of agriculture, guano is a treasure trove. All that guano turned into high-quality phosphate, which, as it turns out, is like fertilizer gold. Phosphate is essential for plant growth, making it incredibly valuable to farmers around the world. Suddenly, this tiny island nation became the envy of, well, maybe not everyone, but definitely the envy of anyone who likes money. The discovery of phosphate meant that Nauru was sitting on a gold mine. Phosphate exports brought in buckets of cash. Ships began arriving to transport the precious resource to markets around the globe. We're talking Scrooge McDuck swimming pools of money here. The wealth generated from phosphate mining was unprecedented for such a small nation. Nauruans became some of the richest people on the planet, practically overnight. The island's newfound wealth led to rapid economic growth and a significant improvement in the standard of living for its residents. Now, you'd think a sudden influx of wealth would be a good thing, right? Well, remember that roller coaster I mentioned? Yeah, buckle up. See, Nauru went a little, let's call it enthusiastic with their mining. They dug up pretty much the entire island. Imagine taking a cheese grater to a block of cheddar. That's what they did to Nauru. And just like that, Nauru went from tropical paradise to, well, let's just say it wasn't featured in any travel brochures. Unless your idea of a dream vacation is a desolate wasteland of jagged coral pinnacles. Section 4, from riches to rags, the party's over, someone took the boombox. But hey, at least they had mountains of money, right? Well, about that, turns out managing a sudden windfall of cash is harder than it looks. Who knew? Nauru's government, bless their hearts, weren't exactly financial wizards. They made some, let's say, questionable investments. Remember that time they invested in a West End musical about Leonardo da Vinci that closed after 1 week? Yeah, not their best moment. By the late 20th century, the phosphate reserves started drying up. And so did the money. Suddenly Nauru went from "we're so rich" to "wait, how do we pay for everything?" It wasn't pretty. Section 5, Life After Phosphate. So, now what? So, there's Nauru in the 21st century, environmentally messed up and financially drained. Talk about a rough start to the new millennium. But hey, they're a resilient bunch, these Nauruans. They had to figure out a way to survive, right? They've been trying to diversify their economy, focusing on things like fishing, sustainable agriculture, on the little bits of land that haven't been completely mined. And even, believe it or not, tourism. It's a long road to recovery, but they're working on it. Section 6. Environmental hangover, Mother Nature sends the bill. It's a big one. But let's not forget about the environmental hangover from the Phosphate party. Remember that whole island turned into a moonscape thing? Yeah, that's not great for the ecosystem at all. The good news is, they're trying to fix it. Reforestation projects are underway, and they're working on restoring the coral reefs. It's a massive undertaking, but hey, at least they're trying to clean up the mess. Section 7, Nauru's lesson, a cautionary tale, don't spend it all on candy. So what's the takeaway from Nauru's wild ride? This tiny island nation went from rags to riches and back to rags in a matter of decades. Once flush with wealth from its abundant phosphate resources, Nauru experienced an economic boom that saw its citizens enjoying a level of prosperity that was the envy of many. But this prosperity was short-lived. Well, for starters, maybe don't blow all your money on ill-conceived investments and hope for the best. Just a thought. Nauru's leaders made a series of poor financial decisions, investing in ventures that ultimately failed to yield returns. The island's wealth was squandered on luxury items and unsustainable projects, leaving the nation in financial ruin. But more importantly, Nauru's story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of short-sighted resource management. The island's phosphate reserves, once thought to be inexhaustible, were depleted at an alarming rate. The environmental impact was devastating, leaving the land scarred and barren. You can't just exploit the environment for a quick buck and expect everything to be hunky-dory in the long run. The consequences of such actions are far-reaching and often irreversible. Nauru's experience serves as a stark reminder of the importance of sustainable practices and long-term planning. Nauru's story is a reminder that we all live on a pretty small island, all things considered. Our planet, much like Nauru, has finite resources that must be managed wisely. The lessons learned from Nauru's mistakes are applicable on a global scale, and it's up to us to take care of it, for ourselves and for generations to come. By adopting sustainable practices and making informed decisions, we can ensure that our natural resources are preserved for future generations. It's a collective responsibility that requires global cooperation and commitment. Otherwise, we might end up with a planet that looks a lot like, well, you know where I'm going with this. The fate of Nauru serves as a powerful warning of what can happen when short-term gains are prioritized over long-term sustainability. Let's learn from their story and strive to create a better future for all.